What's up, guys? We're now in the 38th Xamarin Android tutorial, and this is going to be the part 3 and the last part of integrating G+ with your application. Okay, so if you're just jumping in right now, be sure to check out the last 2 videos, part 1 and 2 of integrating G+ inside of your application, so that you're up to date and you aren't lost when you come into here and you're just like, what the heck's going on? So this is part 3 of a part 3 tutorial video, so just go ahead and go back 2 videos and start from there. Now, so that being said, where we left off last time was basically we are now connected to G+. We were able to successfully integrate with it. However, we really weren't getting much information. So this video is just going to be that one where you kind of just have fun with it. Okay, so we're just gonna show you how to get some information from the user, such as like the relationship status or their bragging rights or the people in their circles. So it's just stuff like that. Okay, so here's something like that. We have it connects right away. So and if you hit connect again, it's not going to happen because it's already connected. Okay, so that's nothing's going to happen there. But this is all just basically this is basically an application for brevity, guys. It's really supposed to be simple, nothing really pretty to look at. Okay, so obviously you're going to want, when the user's connected, just to hide the sign in button anymore, but I kind of just put a flag there and just put up some information just to get you guys going in the right direction. Okay, so just keeping it simple here. So that's what we're going to be after in this project, is just kind of setting it up to look like that. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do, guys, is I want to come into my main AXML file. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add like all those text views that you saw just a few minutes ago. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste it, guys, because it's really just text views, nothing really fancy going on there. So we just have a text view for like relationship, gender, bragging rights, just stuff that you can pull from the G+ profile. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to do is just going to change the background to something a little more light. Okay, so it's going to look something like that, guys. Now, once again, just to save some time, and we probably have done this 1,000 times already, so to save you some time at watching me do it 1,000 more times, I'm just going to take in the text view. Okay, so this is going to be the text views that are linked up to the ones that we just created inside of here. Okay, so that being said, I will go ahead and grab a reference of those by using the find view by IDs. Okay, so I'll do that here. Okay, so let me go ahead and rebuild it so that these will be recognized by the IntelliSense and we won't be getting any more errors. Now this is basically just grabbing a text view for every text view that we created over here and grabbing an instance of it through the find view by ID method, and then that way we can use them inside of the code. Okay, and then we're going to add some text to it based on the profile of in G+. Okay, so while that's still building, I'll come into here, and we're going to be mainly working in the on connected. Okay, and the on connected is where all the magic happens because you're connected. Okay, so once you connect, that's when you can start doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to keep this. Okay, and we're going to get rid of the right line. All right. And then basically we're just going to check to see if stuff exists, and if it does exist, we're going to concatenate it on the text views text. Okay, so we'll do if the user has a display name, because this stuff can be null. Maybe they left it blank, and if they do leave it blank, it's probably going to be null, and in that case it's just essentially going to not have anything. Okay, so we want to first make sure that there is information in it, and then from there we will then use it. Okay, if not, we won't use it. So that's going to, now what this is going to do, guys, is just the text view, and it's going to set the text, and it's going to do a plus equals, so it keeps the text that's already existing. So name plus equals display name. Okay, so that's all that's doing, and we're basically just going to do the exact same thing for all of the other stuff. Okay, so there's other stuff that we can grab from it, like has tagline. So if the user has a tagline, then we want to concatenate the text of the tagline. Okay. And the same thing we're going to do for bragging rights. So if has bragging rights, then bragging rights dot t text plus equals plus user dot has bragging rights. Okay. So this is pretty simple, just nothing really. I mean, there's probably a better way to do this, but this is just to kind of give you really just a good idea of how to do this and just stuff that you can look for when you are grabbing information from the profile. Okay. So here is where things get a little interesting, and this is when it has relationship status. Okay. And notice that here has relationship status, or relationship status is an integer. Okay. So it's not a string. So basically it's basically an enumeration which each value is going to be tied, or it's not really an enumeration, it's just they're just integer constants that represent a certain status. Okay. So if you go online to like Google Plus relationship status, then you'll see what I mean. Okay. So you'll have a little reference. Okay. And that's basically where I got it. So I went on the developer website for Android, and it said, like, you know, one means this means that. And it's basically, I'm just using a switch case. Okay. So you're probably familiar with the switch case in C# or really any language, since they're mainly the same concept. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that over. Okay. Just to save some time. Okay. So what it does is it checks the relationship status, which is a number from 0 to 8. And depending on what it was, 0 means single, 1 means in a relationship, 2 is engaged, and so on, where default is unknown. So that's basically what it is. And this is all stuff that I grabbed from the Android developer website. Okay. So this is actually what it means. I'm not just making up stuff. Okay. So there it is there. And that's basically that's all that's doing there. Okay. So now that being said, we're going to do the same exact thing for gender. Okay. So if has gender, we're going to do a switch case on gender, which is an integer as well. And then there's going to be 3 cases within a default case, of course. 0 is male, 1 is female, 2 is other, and then default is unknown. Okay. So what that's going to do, guys, is going to basically just check to see if stuff has or is available, and then just concatenate. Okay. So you can do it with a whole bunch of other stuff. There's, you know, just to show you, there's like other stuff like birthday, about me, ID, has ID, stuff like that. So there's definitely some stuff that you can grab and use for your application. Okay. Or even go deeper into like the game services and stuff like that. Okay. But once again, this is just to get you guys started in the right direction, hopefully. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to set a flag to true. Okay. So what this is doing is minfo populated. All that's, we added that in the last tutorial, by the way. What that is doing is essentially just, what this is doing is concatenating. Okay. And every time it connects, we don't want it to, like, if you stop and you go to on start, it'll connect again. Okay. When it resumes, and then it'll just concatenate it all over again. And we don't want that. So all I do is just add a flag so that the info is populated only once per connect. Okay. So once again, this is kind of just me adding something in really quick, but not recommended to do on your part. You're probably going to want something a little more intuitive, but this is just to give you guys an example of how to get some stuff from the user. Okay. So now what that does, guys, is it basically just brings in some information. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this now and make sure that it's working the way we expect it to. And what should happen is I shouldn't have to connect anymore, because the device should now remember me. And then now when it tries to connect, which it does on start, it'll connect, and it'll connect successfully, and then it'll do everything for me. Okay. So here it is. And let's see if it has connected yet. Okay, so looks like I had to sign in again, and what it did is it just went ahead and it concatenated all the stuff. Okay, So if we don't want it to do that, or if we want it to remember us, then come into our tools options. And because I'm using an emulator, this probably won't happen to you guys if you're using a device, but I'll preserve the application data between deploys. Okay. And what that'll do is it should remember me now, where it'll just connect right away, and then I won't have to sign in again. Okay. There it is right there, guys. Okay. And another way, just for reference, while we're on the subject, another way is to come into Google settings. If you wanted to have it to like consent again, then, and you want to like kind of start fresh as if it's a new device, go into Google settings like I just did and go into connected apps. And then here is the app that we have connected right now. If you just do disconnect, that'll disconnect it from G+, and it should forget who you are, okay? So once that's done, we should be able to rebuild it, and we should consent. It should have us consent again to the parameters that we need to allow the application to use, okay? So now look as if it hasn't, so now it forgot me, it's no longer connected, and now when I hit sign in, the consent screen comes again because it forgot about us, and then we sign in, it'll connect, and it'll now fill in all the information like we expect, okay? So that's just to see if you guys want to test it, just to see the consent screen again, go ahead and go into the settings for Google and then have it forget you, okay? So the last thing we want to do is, if you guys use Google G+ a lot, what you guys are probably familiar with is circles, okay? So then there's people that have other G+ accounts that are in your circles, okay? So you basically invite them into your circle, okay? So what you can do is you can load the visible people in your circles, and what you do is you do +class.peopleAPI.loadVisible, okay? And you send it the Google API client, send it null, and what that does, guys, is if you look inside of the load visible, that sends back an I_pending result, okay? So at this point we have an I_pending result, which we then set a result callback, which is this, okay? So we say, okay, and this will give us an error right now, that's okay. Now this will say, okay, load me all the visible people in my circles, and when you're done loading it, because it does take time, when you are done loading it, go on and continue, but when you are done, call this method. There's a method to call, and when you have a result, then I'll handle that in the method call, okay? A lot like how it's done on the onConnected and on resume and on connection fail stuff that we did over here in the second tutorial, so last video, okay? So we passed it this as the listener that's going to have a method to call back, okay? And what we do is we do iResult callback, okay? So it implements a iResult callback, and we want to implement its interface, which is just, it added it here, which is just one method, okay? And this, like I said, this method is called when it has loaded all of your visible people, all of the people in your circles have been loaded, then this gets called right here, okay? So notice that this returns a Java language object, okay? So this isn't an object in C#, this is a Java object, okay? So this gets a little weird. You wouldn't be able to just cast it back, okay? So the result is a people load people result, okay? So it looks something like this, people load people result, and you can do people, and you can't do something like this, like just cast it. It won't give you a compile time error, okay? So, but it will give you a runtime error, all right? So that's not something that you can do. So you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I take a Java object and put it into a C# object, okay? Now there is a way to do it, but if you don't know, it can give it a little weird. So I am going to show you that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to show you how to load people in your circle, because if you ever come across this with Xamarin, this is probably a way to get the Java object into the correct object, okay? So I looked up online what this returns, and this returns a people load people result. So I knew that this had to be cast to it, but I wasn't sure how to do it until I finally figured out, oh, this is how you take a Java object into a C# object, okay? So what you do is you do java.lang.object.getObject, okay? And then inside of here, notice that whatever you pass in is going to be, that same value is going to be passed back. Okay, so if t is an int, then an int is going to be passed back, and so on. Okay, but in this case, we want to pass in a template of I people load people result. So because we pass that in, that's going to be what's passed back. Okay, and it wants to handle, which is the result, the object that you're trying to cast into the this type right here. You would do result.handle, and then you would do JNI handle ownership, and then do not transfer. Okay, so now that passes back a I people load people result, which is exactly what we want. And then now that will load all of the people inside of your circle. Okay, and then you need a buffer. Okay, so you're gonna need a person buffer, people, and then person buffer is gonna have a property of person buffer. Okay, and let's see what this is giving us an error. Because I forgot to initialize it. Okay, so duh. Now that we have the buffer, what we can do is now we can just do a simple for loop. So int I equals 0, well, I is less than buffer.count, so the amount of people inside of your circles. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so this is going to loop through every person, and we can do I person, because this is for every time it loops, it's going to give back a person. Okay, and once again, we need to cast this to a C# object, the buffer. Okay, so the buffer will do, when we do get object, okay, so we want to do a person, I person, because that's what we want to be sent back, and then we'll do, it's going to be buffer.get I, which is the current loop, handle, and do not transfer. Okay, and then simply we will now we have a person. We can do something like display name of person and circle plus person dot display name. Okay, so I unfortunately on the emulator do not have anyone in my circles. Wah, 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 wah. But that's okay. So if you guys have anyone in your circles, then basically this won't execute for me because this will be 0. But this should work to see anyone in your circles. Okay, so view, I'll just put for every person in the user's circles. Okay, guys. So like I said, that can get kind of weird. So that's why I wanted to really just explicitly explain that. And once again, this will come and it'll say, okay, load all the visible people in my circles for this user. And then it'll come into here and it says, okay, I have a result for you. It's going to be a result of type object for Java. Now, this is how you take that and you'll transfer it to a C# object. And then you just need to do the same thing for each person in the person buffer. Okay. And then what that will do is transfer it into a person. And then you can use that to display name or age or whatever they have. Okay. So that is going to be something that's pretty helpful if you want to have like an app that shows people their circles or uses those people, or, you know, maybe you have a game app and you want to see anyone in their circles and see if you want to invite those people, or, you know, just kind of integrate stuff inside of your app that can make your application a little more fluid and dynamic and different for each user. Okay, so those are just a few things. There's a lot more other stuff that you can do with this, guys, but I hope that this gives you a well-rounded idea of how to implement G+ and integrate it inside of your app, and just kind of getting your feet wet with using Google Play services if you haven't. Okay, so if you guys do like, you know, seeing all this stuff and seeing Google Play services, like there's a lot more. There's maps, there's lots of other tools like GCM, like Google Cloud Messaging, that we can implement. So if you guys like to see some other stuff, you know, put some comments below and I'll do my best to implement some other stuff that you guys may be interested in. Okay, so But that is it for this. We have now fully integrated G Plus inside of our app and now can grab some useful information on here. So if you do need to get any of this source code, go ahead and click on the link below. That should take you to the source code if you guys are having some trouble on your app. But this version is working and it all looks good. Okay, so once again, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and that way you can keep up to date with all the videos that I'm going to be coming out with. And of course, it just helps my channel grow, so really appreciate it. At the very least, just like the video if you guys did like it, and it's always appreciated. Okay, so that's it, guys. Thank you for watching, and until next time.